Okay, so you know how you send us these amazing sources to, like, dig into?
Right.
Well, this one is seriously wild. This transcript of a past life regression with someone named Isa.
Hmm.
It's got everything. We're talking potential past life in Siberia 1820.
Wow.
Talk about a traumatic execution. And hold on, there's these energetic influences too.
Intense.
So basically, we're going deep on this one.
Absolutely. We're going to break this all down, see what we can learn.
Yeah, clarity is the name of the game, even with these really out there concepts.
Right.
So where do we even start with Isa's, like, inner journey?
So right off the bat, she's in this detached space, totally empty. Like she wants nothing to do with anyone.
Okay.
But here's where it gets trippy. She starts seeing these things. Holographic spiders, insects, mosquitoes.
Oh, hold on. Holograms. Like, she's seeing them, but they're not really there.
Exactly. Not physically interacting, but the emotions they trigger. Those are real and very negative.
So, holographic spiders and mosquitoes, I'm already creeped out. But what's the meaning behind these, like, visions?
Here's the fascinating part. These projections are totally linked to her emotions. Like, each spider represents a past or present nervous reaction, literally taking shape.
So it's amplifying her anxiety.
Exactly. And it's making her hesitate to act. It's like her subconscious is speaking through these disturbing visuals.
Wow, that is so powerful. Like, our inner world becoming external. But what about the actual space she's in during this?
It's described as this hazy fog, manufactured, almost artificial. Like it makes her dizzy and sleepy.
Oh, I hate that feeling.
Right. And it's almost like it's designed to keep her focused on these negative projections.
So, like, lulling her into a passive state.
Focused on the fear.
Okay, so we've got this foggy, dreamlike space, anxiety-inducing illusions.
Yeah.
This is already wild. And the fog wasn't just a feeling, right? It was visual, too.
Absolutely. It's described that her eyes have this white film, they're milky, matching the fog perfectly.
Wow. Like, her inner and outer perception are totally in sync, even though it's all internal.
Exactly.
And these projections, the spiders, insects, are they constantly swarming her, or do they come and go?
It varies, sometimes one, sometimes multiple.
Yeah.
And when there are many, it's totally overwhelming, like dealing with a ton of stress at once.
Oh, I can relate to that feeling.
Right. It shows how connected this experience is to her everyday life.
So this whole initial state is basically her facing these deep-seated anxieties, taking on these creepy forms. But what led her to this state in the first place? Where did the regression take her next?
The source of all this fear, it seemed to be centered in her abdomen. You know, that area is linked to gut feelings, deep emotions.
All right.
She had this unprocessed fear there and a feeling like she wanted to vomit. A super visceral reaction.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this fear, it acted like a thread, pulling her back to a really significant past life memory.
Okay, so what was this memory? Something directly connected to that core fear.
It was disturbing. She sees several people at the edge of a ditch, and behind them, others who forced them there, or who'd already hurt them.
That sounds awful.
It really does. And the imagery is super strong, like a mass execution, although the transcript says it was a metaphor.
Maybe for this feeling of utter helplessness?
Could be, but within this metaphorical scene, there's a more specific memory.
Okay, what is it?
A young girl, 3 to 5 years old, and it's Isa in that lifetime. She's holding a woman's hand, who she sees as her mother, and she's watching this woman die.
Oh, man. A child witnessing that. That's just heartbreaking and terrifying. Did the regression give any clues about when or where this happened?
Yes, thankfully it did. The time period is around 1820, and the location points strongly towards Siberia.
Siberia. That's harsh.
It really is. And the reason for this whole thing, it's just awful. They were seen as unnecessary in the way after being used for hard labor.
So basically, disposable people, what kind of labor are we talking about?
Carrying bricks and stones, often barefoot, injured. It was a Siberian labor camp, brutal conditions.
Oh my gosh, I can't even imagine. How long was she there?
She arrived at 3 years old with her mom and spent about 3 months in that horrific place.
3 months of that, especially for a little kid, that would mess anyone up. Do we know how they ended up in the camp?
It sounds like they were transported there like livestock, along with others. It wasn't where she was born, she was brought there.
So it was just ripped from their home, sent to this awful place. And during those 3 months, how did little Isa cope?
It seems she stayed glued to her mom, like instinctively trying to prevent separation.
Makes sense. Safety in numbers, even if it's just your mom.
Right. And the reason given is that the mother was more productive with the child there.
Oh, that's so chilling. Like, they didn't even see them as human beings.
Exactly. But the worst fear, it came when Isa was at the edge of that ditch, seeing what happened to others.
Knowing her and her mom were next.
Yes, terrifying. And tragically, the way they died, it was a blow to the head, instant death.
So quick, at least. But the trauma of seeing it happen to others, then experiencing it herself, that's huge.
Did the regression say anything about what happened at the moment of death? Like, energetically?
This is where it gets even weirder. There's this dark energy and the smell. It's sulfur and blood. And then get this, there are these entities.
Entities? Like what? Ghosts?
Well, at first they look like devils, but behind that, there's these reptilian beings with rounded snouts.
Devils hiding reptilians.
Mm.
Okay, that's a new one. What were they doing?
They're described as taking something from the body after death, as Isa, in like her energy form, follows her mom's energy.
Stealing their souls or their life force or something. Creepy.
Like some kind of energetic harvesting is going on.
And was that milky fog still around at this point?
Oh yeah, still there at the moment of death. And that sulfur smell is linked to the fog, like a pungent, smoky thing.
So even the environment itself is like toxic.
Seems that way.
It's also strange, these entities, this fog, and why disguise themselves as devils. There's a possible explanation for that. There were Catholic priests in the camp.
Ah, so they're tapping into existing beliefs.
Exactly. Maybe connecting the experience to punishment or projecting this image of power using religion to manipulate.
Wow, that is so messed up. But what about Isa as a child? Was she religious back then?
The transcript says no, not in that moment. Her only focus was her mother, just that raw, primal bond.
That makes sense. Total focus on survival and connection. So after this awful death, she's following her mom's energy. Was there any sense of peace, like a normal transition?
At first, yeah, there's joy. She's not alone, still with her mom in some way. But then that fog gets thicker.
Oh, no.
She loses focus on her mom, and all those negative emotions come flooding back. That journey with her mother, instead of being peaceful, it turns into, well, it either creates or she enters that same foggy space from the beginning of the session.
So that space wasn't random. It was directly tied to this past life trauma.
Right, and that's when the milky eyes appear too.
Makes sense. Fog outside, fog inside.
Exactly. And as soon as she's in that space, the spider and insect attacks begin. No break, no time to process, just straight into this trapped state.
So it's a direct continuation of the trauma carrying over across lifetimes.
Yeah, like a loop. The trauma, the entities, they create this trap, and she's stuck in it, even in her current life, unconsciously.
That is so heavy. Did the regression explain how this stuck state might have influenced her current life, like how she was reborn?
Yeah, and here's where it gets really interesting. There's this entity described as an insectoid-reptilian hybrid.
Okay, that's a visual.
Right. And this thing, it influenced her reincarnation, not with a specific plan, but it kept her in this state of stupefaction in that foggy place.
Stupefaction, like dazed and confused. Why would it do that?
It's all about energy. This control mechanism, it's compared to a spider web, and it keeps her constantly generating energy by reacting to those negative stimuli.
So it's feeding off her fear, like a psychic parasite.
Exactly. It's getting continuous energy from her based on her feeling trapped. There's even a buzzing sound when it feeds.
Yikes. Did it interact with her a lot in that in-between space?
You would enter periodically, like it owned the place, and each visit, it was just to feed.
Wow. Did she feel its presence in her everyday life too?
Yeah, as physical sensations. Itching, irritation, not wanting to be touched. Like that energetic connection was causing real discomfort.
That's so freaky. And the spiders and insects? Why those forms?
Seems like it's connected to the trauma of that past life, amplified by her current life stuff. It's inherently unsettling to her, so it triggers those big emotional responses which the entity feeds on.
So it's like a vicious cycle. Fear creates the image reinforces the fear, and the entity's just eating it all up.
Exactly. And here's the crazy part. The entity didn't even have to make all those holograms. Isa's own tendency to, like, overreact, blow things out of proportion, that fueled them too.
So she was unintentionally feeding it.
Wow.
Were there any other ways this past life was showing up in her present?
Yeah. She had a thing about dirt and uncleanliness linked to that labor camp. And get this, she had this mental program about predicting bad things.
So, like, always expecting the worst.
Exactly. And that stemmed from that little girl trying to anticipate danger. But now it manifests as obsessive thoughts, like those insects buzzing around in our mind.
Always on edge. And this led to
black and white thinking, catastrophizing. Things rarely actually went that bad, but the fear was constant.
so more fuel for the entity. She's trapped in this web of trauma, manipulation, and her own patterns. How did the regression help her break free?
It all started with awareness. Through the regression, she saw where it all came from, the Siberian death, the influences, everything.
So bringing the unconscious to the conscious.
Exactly. That's step one.
Awareness is key. What was her reaction to all this?
She was done. She wanted that white film gone, the fog energy gone, all of it. It was a conscious decision to reclaim her power.
Good for her. Could she actually release those energies during the session?
Yes. That foggy energy, she could feel it all through her subtle body.
And subtle body means?
It's like an energy blueprint for our physical form. So this fog was everywhere, but she released it. Her eyes became clear, bright again. She also had this heaviness and pain in her feet that she let go of.
Like walking away from it all.
Right. And that foggy space itself, completely cleared. She even told the hybrid entity to get lost, stop influencing her.
Damn. Taking back her power, setting boundaries, love it. But what about the emotional stuff, that longing for her mom?
Yeah, that was still there, in her eyes, her throat, the pain of that separation. But the regression showed her something amazing. Energetic connection goes beyond physical separation, even death.
So like their souls are still linked.
Exactly. She was guided to connect with her mother energetically, and she realized the longing was based on a false idea of being completely separated. She even met the energy form of a girl from that life, who she knows in this one too.
Whoa, so they reincarnated together.
That's like their souls have this bond that goes across lifetimes.
That's beautiful. And I bet that helped with the grief.
Definitely. What about those physical problems, like the chronic fatigue?
Right, she mentioned that. Any connection there?
That fatigue was directly from the energy drain caused by that first entity.
Yeah.
And that feeling of resignation she had 3 months before, that made it worse because it lowered her defenses.
So it wasn't all in her head, it was real energy drain.
Exactly.
Were there any other entities? Like, was that it?
There was one more. This one looked like a crocodile.
Okay, getting scary again. Where was this one attached?
To her chest, constricting her heart, blocking her emotions. It was like it was inside her, tail wrapped around her heart like it was guarding an egg. So she couldn't feel or express her emotions fully. Her heartbeat even felt muffled.
Another reptilian messing with her heart this time. What was the effect of that?
It blocked her emotions. She couldn't even tell what she was feeling. The connection between her heart and her awareness was cut off.
Wow. And it gets worse, right? This one wasn't just on her heart.
Nope. It also messed with her ovaries, made them energetically empty, inactive. So her sexual energy was blocked, and her sense of femininity too.
So it was suppressing her on multiple levels. Why would it do that?
It's all about control. By blocking her heart and reproductive energy, it kept her from acting on her feelings, on her desires. It even had this slimy energy was spreading through her.
Ugh, gross. Like it was trying to take over her whole being. When did this one attach to her?
When she was 7 years old.
Yeah.
And it was triggered by this feeling of not being able to make her own choices. Like someone else was controlling her life, maybe a grandmother figure.
So another childhood wound. But how did that allow the entity in?
She internalized that feeling of restriction, started feeling inadequate, foolish even, and that closed off her heart, made her give up her own will. And that opening, that's what the entity needed to latch on.
So it was her reaction to the situation that created the vulnerability. Man, that is deep. What happened to this entity during the session?
They confronted it and removed it. No big fight, just a decisive action to cut it loose.
Clean break. Any other attachments besides these two?
Nope, that was it. They focused on clearing those 2 main ones.
Makes sense. Those were the big ones. What about her other health issues like the back pain, skin growths?
Back pain wasn't specifically linked to energy stuff in this case, but the skin growths, those were tied to the feeling of those insects biting her.
Oh, wow. Like a physical manifestation of that anxiety.
Yeah, could be. Some things were just physical, like small lumps in the brain, snoring. Weight gain after pregnancy was normal too, but her tendency to overthink it, that's that exaggeration pattern again.
So some things are deeper, some are just life. What about her self-esteem issues? The not accepting compliments, not liking herself.
That was linked back to those childhood restrictions and the heart blockage from the crocodile. Even her bad childhood memories, it's more about emotional detachment than actual events.
Like she shut down to cope. What about the financial problems she mentioned? Was that all just bad luck?
It was more than that. The regression showed that her and her family's reactions to the problems, that made things way worse. Like they were draining their own energy by focusing on the negative.
So their mindset amplified the problem.
Exactly. The first crisis, 4 years ago, that was real, but the way they reacted to it made it spiral. There was blame, withdrawal, the whole 9 yards.
Yikes. It's amazing how our energy can affect things like that. What about her relationship with her husband? She said she felt dependent on him.
That was rooted in loneliness and fear, but she was also kind of detached from him.
Right.
So it's complicated.
Needing him, but not being fully present with him.
Right.
And her daughter. She mentioned friction there.
That one had a past life connection. They're mother and daughter, but roles reversed.
Whoa, that's trippy.
Yeah, and the friction now is because the daughter needs her mom to see her for who she is now, not as her past life mom.
Let go of the past roles. Makes sense. And her son. She felt he was too dependent on her.
That was more about her own needs, wanting to nurture and be needed. It wasn't about anything the son did.
So projecting her own stuff, did they go back further than that Siberian life? Like,
Yep.
to the beginning?
Yes. She was shown her very first entry into Earth. And get this, she wasn't human. She was a plant, a sprouting plant, feeling the Earth's heartbeat.
That's so cool. Back to the roots, literally.
Right. Then she became a tree, all grounded and strong. Then a deer, free and in nature, like a progression through those kingdoms before becoming human.
I love that. But were those experiences her choice? Or was there something else going on?
It's possible those early forms were manipulated, maybe to keep her there longer, or to rush her into being human, who knows. But she also saw it as a celebration, a time of joy before the human experience.
So bittersweet. And what about her first human life?
That was influenced too. They called it a standard adjustment, maybe to fit the planet's energy or the needs of other beings.
So we're not even totally free in our first life.
Seems that way.
Mm.
And she's had relatively few human lives, around 26. And a lot of them were cut short, early death.
Wow.
Yeah. And the regression suggests that was intentional, to prevent her from learning too much, from awakening, maybe even orchestrated by those same forces. The fact she's alive now as an adult might even be thanks to that stupefying influence.
So the thing that's hurting her is also what's keeping her alive. That's messed up.
Right. But to see the bigger picture, they showed her her whole timeline, the manipulation, the original plan, all of it.
So she could understand it all.
Exactly. She
Yeah.
got to re-experience that plant stage, that connection to Earth. And she remembered wanting to experience duality on Earth, the good and the bad.
So that was her initial choice.
Yeah, she chose this. And get this, she decided to rewrite her entry into Earth. Knowing everything now, the manipulation, the strategies of awakened beings, everything.
Now she's taking control. I love it.
She released the programs and claimed her power to create her own experience.
Yeah.
Then she integrated all that and felt cleansed, ready.
That is so powerful. So after all this, what was she like?
Happy, joyful, connected to everything like that plant she started as. Loneliness, fear, trauma, all gone. She even felt compassion for those women who controlled her as a child.
That's amazing. Letting go of the resentment and the neediness. Gone too.
Totally gone. She felt her heart free and strong. Open breathing, expansive energy. Her emotions were balanced, no more overreacting. She even laughed about how much she used to overthink things.
That is incredible. What a transformation.
And her sexual energy in her ovaries, it was vibrant, growing. Mentally, she was clear, focused. Those energy lumps were gone.
Like a total reset. Anything else? Did they do anything to make sure those changes stuck?
They cleared any remaining energetic influences, agreements, contracts, everything. She was fully embodying her true self, radiating light, healing. She felt empowered, unstoppable.
Wow. Just wow. And what about her future?
They looked 3 months ahead, and she was handling challenges with calm, finding solutions. Assertive, creative, resourceful.
So the inner changes were reflected in her outer life. Awesome. What about those relationships? Any improvement there?
Her and her husband, warmth, connection, no more distance. Her daughter, mutual understanding. The daughter just wanted to be herself, no more past life roles. Her son, she didn't need to overcare for him anymore. She saw his need for independence.
So much healthier. And her grandmother's.
No more need to apologize, just understanding. One of them had already reincarnated as a boy, the other hadn't yet. They were both offered the insights from the session to help them on their journeys.
That's so thoughtful. What was the final message for Isa? What was she supposed to take away from all of this?
Focus on herself right now. Let go of the past, the fear, the blocks. Embrace the present moment as the only reality.
That's great advice for all of us. Man, this has been a wild ride exploring Isa's past life regression.
It really has. And you, our listener, you're the one who brought us this incredible source.
Yeah, this transcript was amazing. So many insights, so much to think about.
It shows how powerful it is to understand those deeper layers of ourselves, our childhoods, past lives, the energies around us.
Isa's journey, it teaches us about trauma, manipulation, but also about the power of awareness and choice. We can change our reality.
Absolutely. It makes you wonder what's influencing you, what hidden forces are shaping your life.
Mm.
Maybe this inspires you to explore, to reflect on your own journey.
Yeah, there's a whole unseen world out there affecting us all.
And becoming aware of it is the first step to freedom.
Well said.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
Until next time.